Howdy, guys, gals, and non binary pals. This is the Tales from the Waystone Summer Reading Program.
We are your hosts, Will and Phoenix. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the fourth installment of our series on John Scalzi's starter villain, Pitch Perfect, where we'll be reading chapters 13 through 16.
Alrighty, because I still need it in front of my face. Cool. Short explanation of the pod. Each week we will be examining a section of starter villain and figuring out what we can take from the text to apply to our real lives. We will also take some time to focus on something we have learned this week, and then we will share a recommended thing of the week. But we will actually probably have done the notable quotables from the book before all of this, and that is a quote from the book that made us smile or laugh or think. Before we begin, let's get some disclaimers out of the way. First of all, we are in no way affiliated with John Scalzi or his publisher, Tor Book. Second of all, our discussions naturally assume that you have read through chapter 16 of Starter Villain. If you haven't, please pause this podcast right now. Trust me, we know we live in your phone. And then go read it. It's okay. We'll wait. Are you back? Okay, cool. Either you've read the passage or you don't care about spoilers. Also, word to our community, please be kind to yourselves, one another, and the creators of the worlds that we love exploring.
Alrighty, so we kick things off with chapter 13. Charlie is having a hard time going to sleep on his first night in what is effectively his new home.
Yeah, considering his old home got blown up.
This is the closest thing to home that he's got right now, and he's a little restless. I mean, it's always kind of weird when you go to a new place and you have to say, okay, this is home now.
I mean, it's kind of weird for me, at least on the first night or two of a vacation, to sleep in a different bed.
Yeah, takes some getting used to. And so it's kind of natural that Charlie has a little bit of restlessness. I mean, there's also the fact that the past 3 days have been probably the most stressful of his life.
Day. Pretty much day. Just one day. I don't even think it's 3 days. I think it's a day.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I don't think he slept since then.
Yeah.
So he goes for a walk, assuming he's going to get sniped because he's like, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. I don't belong here. Someone's probably watching me, or many someone's. I don't belong here. But he winds up going to the Dolphin Lagoon, having a kind of awkward conversation, but really like real conversation with the dolphin that had dubbed himself or dubbed themselves. Who gives a
Shirt. Yeah, for the sake of clarity here, we'll just be using who gives a
shirt?
to refer to this dolphin. But like the dolphin has certain preconceived notions about Charlie. And Charlie actually shows a little bit of vulnerability here because he freely admits that he does want to try and understand the dolphins and how they live as opposed to make demands on them. And he tries to at least meet them at their level. Obviously, he does run into some difficulties trying to figure out naming because dolphins don't necessarily have verbal names that translate easily into just human language.
And much like when it's somebody from a culture that you are unfamiliar with their naming conventions, Charlie tries to humanize, anglicize something.
Anthropomorphize would probably be.
There you go. The name that this dolphin actually goes by and gets called out for it because, like, no. I didn't say that you could call me something that you made up. That's the problem already. Whether or not it's something nicer than
Deckhead.
it doesn't matter. It's still not my name. And it's the same thing, like something that happens that actually kind of drives me nuts. So somebody will tell you their name. And then one of the tactics I've seen when people just don't get it is, hey, could you spell that for me? Cool. And then they read it and then they say it differently than the name that was given, right? Like, just let's pick something from pop culture so that it's not as strictly offensive. Namor in Black Panther 2. Namor. That is how Namor's name has been given from the actual people that named him, and in the film, what he called himself. And I can't remember Angela Bassett's character name, but she mispronounces it as Namor. Like, it's just very simply different, but it's like a different vowel sound, but it's not their name. It's so better example in Star Trek Next Generation when Pulaski tried to call Data Data,
Yeah.
and Data's like, but that's not my name. Data, that's how I pronounce my name.
Well, data is an acceptable pronunciation of the word. It's not his name.
Correct. And so it's that kind of thing. It's like, hey, no, you asked me out of respect what my name was. You don't then get to try to make it easier to say.
And it is fair to say, I have a hard time pronouncing that if it is something that is long or drawn out. Is there a shorter one that you would prefer?
Yeah. Is there something that you would like me to call you? And honestly, like, just do your best to actually pronounce their name the way that they pronounce their name.
If it is humanly possible.
Yes, I'm still on human names, right? Like, even if it's a culture that you are not familiar with, still try to be respectful. And if you get it wrong, don't get offended if you're the one who got their name wrong.
And if you mispronounce it, try and do better next time and keep practicing.
Well, like, okay, so a different one. In Cloudward Ho, half the time Brendan gets Daisuke's name right, and half the time he tries to pronounce it Daisuke. And he flip-flops between the two. I'm like, but it's Daisuke. It's easy. It's Daisuke. Listen to the word, don't try to read it. Asuka, my former boss, that's how she pronounces her name. It's not how it's spelled, but that's how it's pronounced. And again, say it the way that they say it.
Yep. Anyway, I do also like how, even though the dolphin is still pretty hostile.
Yeah. I would not necessarily say hostile. I'd say abrasive.
Yeah, they're pretty abrasive and also maybe not necessarily the most charitable in their reading of Charlie's intentions. But because Charlie is at least willing to talk with them as opposed to make demands of them, who gives a
Shirt.
provides a little bit of advanced information that Matilda should probably know about.
We have whales again. Now, before we get into that a little bit, there are a couple of little things that we do find out. I'm just going to kind of go through. A, the dolphins are all clones. B, the cats are all clones. And Hera is clearly spying on Charlie. Cats are in management because they're on land.
And they also have a say in the strategic direction of the organization in a way that the dolphins really don't.
Now, who gives a
Shirt
is very hostile also toward Hera, who has followed Charlie. It's interesting also, though, after this meeting, after Who Gives a
shirt.
swims off, how Hera and Charlie have a conversation in her suite, and how maternal this cat is. But also, it shows how living to that whole, you can tell a lot about a person by how they treat pets or animals. And Charlie was going to be spied on regardless. Hera was going to be the neighborhood cat and keeping tabs on him. But Charlie took her in and made her job easier, but actually took her in, fed her, looked for her previous home just in case.
It's also worth pointing out that even though she was doing this for Jake, Jake specifically wanted to have someone keeping tabs on Charlie to protect him. It was done out of love. You can argue about whether it was the right thing to do or not. And I mean, if we're looking at outcomes here, it probably was, because we quickly learn that Hera has thwarted multiple assassination attempts on Charlie even before the whole house blowing up business.
Charlie even is like, wait, how many times have people tried to kill me? And Hera's response is, since I've been around, or ever.
Yeah. So you could think of her as a spy, but in many ways, she's also a bodyguard.
I do also love, though, are there other smart animals? Like dogs, maybe? No dogs. Dogs are the worst. They'll sell you out for a treat and a head pat.
Dogs, for all of the talk of loyalty, they may not ever do something like actively turn on you or harm you, but they'll definitely stand out of the way for someone who gives them treats and treats them kindly.
Our cat is, he loves us, and he loves a few of our friends. And then the ones that want him to love them could not care. He just could not care. He's like, our friend who comes and takes care of our cat while we are gone on vacation or on a trip or other such things wants Sokka to love him so bad and gives him all the treats, makes sure he gets fed, comes and gives him scritches, all of this stuff. Could not care less.
Yep. I think the thing to remember is that once you have earned a cat's friendship, and you do have to earn it in some capacity, that is unbreakable. Like, a cat does not instantaneously just choose to be your friend. But once a cat has chosen to be, that bond is unshakable.
As evidenced. So we go through this whole conversation where we ultimately find out that when Charlie goes off to the Lombardi convocation, that Hera is going to be on Charlie's security detail. And it just makes me giggle and just so happy because she's a cat and she's going to protect Charlie from bomb threats again.
And other things.
And other things.
I mean, naturally. I think while there is an element that seems transactional, and Charlie is a little afraid of that, the fact is that Hera's loyalties are truly to him, not just because she was assigned to by his Uncle Jake. I think she does have genuine affection for him and is acting in his best interests.
All right. They have traveled by map and now they are at the Grand Bellagio Hotel, which is nowhere near Las Vegas. It is, in fact, actually on Lake Como.
Yeah, it's an Italian villa. It feels like the setting for a Bond movie.
Yeah.
It's basically a hotel with a whole bunch of villains in it.
Well, a whole bunch of villains and a whole bunch of dude bros in startup culture.
I have known my share of tech bro startup guys. Some I liked, some I didn't, but man, yeah, some of this felt pretty real.
I love the biting sarcasm and commentary that John Scalzi has put into this book and into Kaiju Preservation Society. Those two, I think, are two of my favorite of his works, just because they're both funny, but also very on point.
Before we get too far into this, we need to really start talking about the big guy, Anton Dobrev. He is the head of the convocation, and he was the one who sent the invite to Charlie to come to this thing.
He's also the one that sent the suck it motherfucker vase to Jake's funeral.
Dobrev is kind of hard to get a read on, I think by design. He seems jovial and avuncular, but also quietly menacing.
Or not so quietly menacing.
You get the sense that when he is happy and he likes you, you're in pretty good shape. But that could change, and he may also, even if he likes you and thinks fondly of you, screw you over if it is in his interest, or he decides that it's in his interest. And that could include anything from stealing from you, blackmailing you, killing you, you name it. It's just business, nothing personal. We also learned that he was kind of best frenemies with Uncle Jake.
So Charlie does arrive to the hotel and notes that his suite is larger than his old house. And Till makes it clear that the room is bugged. All the rooms are bugged. There is no way to have a room anywhere near here, ever, that is not bugged. So you might as well enjoy the space, but also don't give away any secrets. Don't say anything you wouldn't want people to know about. Talking cats.
A very significant look at Hera there. This is a zero trust scenario where pretty much anything you say here, you have to assume is going to be heard by
everyone.
Pretty much anyone and everyone. You do not have privacy, and you cannot have the assumption of true confidentiality. And everyone here is out for their own interests.
They are either exceedingly rich or attempting to become rich because they think that they can pick it up by osmosis just by being around the rich. And ultimately, like, everyone who is a villain in this scenario, a professional villain, are most likely
ashholes,
but not stupid. And now Charlie is going to meet with the big guy himself. Dobrev is, I don't know, disconcerting is probably the best word I've got for him.
Yeah, it's the arm around the shoulder, hand around the neck sort of thing.
Yeah. And when Charlie is brought to the tea room where Dobrev is, there is a man facing away, finishing up a conversation with Dobrev, who is then revealed to be
Tobias the Stabber.
everyone is in business with everyone, and everyone is also willing to kill any of them.
Yeah, it is just business.
It is just business.
We learn that Jake, while he oftentimes interacted with the members of the convocation, was not himself a member and was one of the few people who was able to actively turn them down simply because he was good enough at disrupting the work of the people of the convocation, probably because of his hyper intelligent cats.
Well, at least in part.
True.
Because the hyper intelligent cats have infiltrated all throughout the world of villainy, and so far have not been discovered to be hyper intelligent or spies. So far, at least that's the theory. Now, I don't want to go through blow by blow, but I do want to mention that through the conversation where it's supposed to be disarming and teaching Charlie that it's okay to be part of this whole group and all this other stuff, an assassination attempt happens against Dobrev, and Charlie, instinctually good Samaritan hero, tries to protect the head villain.
The kingpin, basically.
Right. Like, he tries to get in front and pull the guy down and get him away from the guy with the knife and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, Dobrev is just fighting against Charlie. And at the end, he's just like, dude, I was fine.
Sniper took care of it.
Yeah, with a non-lethal, basically long-distance taser.
Probably better described as less lethal.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the best way to describe any, quote, non-lethal thing. It's less lethal.
Fair. It was on stun.
See, it's fine. It's on stun. We also learn that one thing that Dobrev shares with Jake is while he is ruthless, he is not what you would call bloodthirsty. He doesn't go out of his way to kill his enemies, not out of any quality of mercy, but mostly because he wants to know what they know. And he also knows that the people who are sent after him are just hired guns. These are people collecting a paycheck from the highest bidder, and it's just business. And if they're kept alive, they can reveal information about who hired them.
What I love is that so much of this is hand waved away as just business.
So what that tells me is that Dobrev is someone who is, one, hyper capable of compartmentalizing, two, capable of acting out of enlightened self-interest. Like, he is selfish, yes, 100%, but could be someone who is not afraid to act for mutual benefit and thinks with a long-term lens. That makes him doubly dangerous. So after this meeting, he gives this spiel about how the convention started, about, after the Boer War ended, before all of the profiteers could actually properly make a mint off of it. So they talk about how their job isn't really so much to control events so much as foresee them and profit off of them. Make strategic investments accordingly.
There is some biting commentary, again, John Scalzi showing through, that the American educational system is not interested in teaching anything about events outside of the United States, and it's barely interested in teaching events that happened within the borders.
Yeah, the US educational system oftentimes, well, I mean, if you really want a good primer on it, I'd suggest reading the book Lies My Teacher Told Me: Everything Your American History Textbook Got Wrong by James Lowen, which gives you a rundown not just of those distortions that show up in American history textbooks, but the socioeconomic and political factors that lead to this. And it has a lot to do with the outsized role that the state of Texas plays in the textbook market.
Texas, Florida.
Well, Texas especially. Texas is the single largest market for textbooks in the United States. And so anything that does not get approved by the Texas Board of Education is effectively not able to be profitable and will not be able to serve the largest market in the United States. And those school boards happen to have a heavily partisan bent to them that has a very particularly vested interest in perpetuating certain myths of American exceptionalism, particularly as it surrounds civil rights and as it surrounds the westward expansion, etc.
What you're saying is that they're racist.
Yeah, they're racist and they're jingoistic, and yeah, they've got a very specific interest in perpetuating these myths. And so any history textbook that does not perpetuate those myths does not get published.
Now, back to this book. Hard cut to a conversation with Morrison and Charlie, where Morrison's like, he pulled that on you. He tried to like make you sympathize with their plight and that they're reasonable and like just pulled out the Boer War stuff. And Charlie's like, what, is it inaccurate? Well, no, it's just pointless. And she makes a point that the origin story shouldn't and doesn't matter. It just matters that they all decided to form their little cabal. And if it hadn't been that event, it would have been some other event that spearheaded it.
We also got to figure that that means that by the time World War One and World War II broke out, this cabal was probably heavily invested in profiteering off of these mass casualties. So these are all basically the military industrial complex writ large. So they are invested in coming up with new and inventive ways to kill people, control people, do whatever it takes to profit off of their lives or deaths. That means that even if they weren't, quote, pulling the strings, they were certainly there to collect the paychecks. Again, I don't think that they were too scrupulous about who was writing those checks either. So,
Yeah, war profiteers.
yeah.
Now, Morrison and Charlie are having this conversation in the middle of a busy restaurant full of dude bros.
Tech bros, especially.
Fair.
That means we're talking about fleece vests, guys who are talking into the USB-C jack of their phones like it's a microphone, guys talking on earbuds, and mostly all of this is purely performative.
They're all trying to put on a show for everyone else who is also putting on a show and not actually paying attention to literally any of it from the other people. They just want to make it look like they are important. Now, one of them, one tech bro, just butts into the conversation between Charlie and Morrison. So the conversation is going this way. Look at these
Assholes.
You think any of these dweebs has anything approaching patience? They're all would-be short sellers and arbitrageurs and hedge fund vultures. They'd stab grandma if they thought that there were 2 nickels in it for them. And Dude Bro goes, that's unfair.
Right, because these guys are wannabes.
Let me guess. USC, Wharton, a Senate McKinsey, and now you've got a startup disrupting, I don't know, fish food or something? Composting, actually. Composting. And then Morrison's just like, look, Charlie, Brad here is going to offer you a subscription to Loam, Soil as a Service. Let me guess, you have proprietary earthworms, maybe. And at the end of this whole conversation, like, Morrison gets up and leaves, and Dude Bro over here is like, how did she know my name was Brad?
They're all named Brad. There are a lot of Brads that show up in that set.
But yeah, so this very pointed, very, very cutting, like, yeah.
What I see a lot of in this set is, again, like these are the consultant class. Like these are guys who they do some cursory reading about a thing, and then they hire an engineer to basically do the job computerized. And they themselves don't contribute anything. They don't understand the things that they're doing. They disrupt something for the sake of disrupting it, mostly because it's something that they perceive as being profitable. Like Think about something like the Internet of Things. This is an example of that. Like, this is something that literally nobody asked for.
I do not want my dryer constantly asking people that come over to my house if they would like to connect to it.
Right. I don't need my refrigerator to be connected to the internet.
I don't need my refrigerator to have a TV in it.
Yeah. And I don't need any of this stuff to be turned into a subscription service. And here's the truly tragic thing about any of these things. What inevitably happens is sooner or later, one of these technologies is going to be gobbled up by either Amazon or Google. And then eventually, some product manager at one of these two companies is going to look at this and say, this really isn't yielding the margins that we'd hoped for. So we're going to turn off updates for this. And so suddenly your system is no longer going to be protected against the security threats to your refrigerator.
Right. What? Okay. So there were some ovens when we were looking for ovens that had certain features locked behind an app. The thing mechanically can do those features. Mechanically, it works. It can happen. Software through an app is preventing you from having a convection oven.
That's
What?
bullshit. Yeah. And I'm just sitting here like I've done enough stuff with people who work on this, and I've worked in enough tech companies to understand that the worst thing that will happen is you get stuck in this ecosystem. And then when it's no longer profitable for them to support it, they will turn off the servers that the thing relies upon. And then suddenly this oven or refrigerator or washer dryer combo that you spent thousands of dollars on is bricked and useless.
It literally is just going to sit there until you chuck it into a landfill. And then it won't be able to do the thing it's supposed to be doing. And then you'll have to spend thousands of dollars on a new one that is also connected to an app.
Yeah. Like I say, nobody asked for this, but some consultant somewhere saw a solution in need of a problem, so they created a problem.
Anyway, couple more conversations about everybody wants to kill you, Charlie. I've left you a file so you can read up on everybody who's trying to kill you. I'll see you at the pitch and pitch. Okay, but what's the pitch and pitch? Oh, you'll see.
I think it's also probably worth pointing out, it's not that they all want to kill Charlie. It's they all want to either kill him or profit from him.
Or profit from his death.
Yep. Anyway, let's talk about the pitch and pitch.
Because this is the best part of this whole chunk.
So there are basically two parallel conventions that are going on at the Grand Bellagio right now. The first is the Lombardi Convocation.
The ultra secret villain conference.
And then there's the public front, which is the Lombardi Group. Think of it as Shark Tank for startup bros.
Douchey tech bros.
Yeah. I mean, granted, that is Shark Tank, but so all of these Brads of the world, these Mackenzie
assholes,
coming in and trying to pitch their startup ideas to the members of the convocation. Now, they don't know anything about who these people actually are. They just know that they're rich, they're powerful, and they want their patronage.
So Charlie shows up with Hera in tow, and every one of the villain class has a cat with them at their table who is given the finest grade sashimi in a crystal goblet to munch on. Now, these cats are clearly better behaved than our cat, because our cat, if you don't feed him exactly on time, will pretend that you didn't feed him if you feed him late, and then proceed to either chew on the furniture, try to bury his food dish under the table it is sitting on, never has worked, or some other disruptive
bullshit.
Because he is a jerk, because he's a cat. He would break that thing so quickly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he would go for the tuna. Absolutely.
Possibly.
He likes fish.
He does. He likes fish. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm saying that if it is not his food time, he might just be a jerk about it.
Yeah, true.
Even if he's hungry. Probably especially if he's hungry. But every single cat has just raw tuna minced in front of their face. And then the humans also are served nice, fine sashimi, and I feel so bad for Charlie because he gets stuck having a conversation and never gets a bite of his food. But the pitch and pitch starts with I want you to consider your testicles as a surface. And it's essentially this dude trying to pitch male birth control that is like a valve to whether or not you produce sperm.
App controlled, of course.
I have to say, as much as I don't want my dryer to be controlled by an app that could be where the surface could stop being updated.
Yeah.
Body parts where could just the surface could be shut down. Wow.
Yeah, and really what we're getting at is it's rent seeking. It's rent seeking for common everyday things.
A EULA for whether or not you can produce sperm.
Yeah, and everything is something that is a way to collect passive income without having to do anything.
Now, I gotta say, throughout this whole chapter, it was very fun listening to it because you can definitely tell that Will Wheaton's like very tickled by a lot of it. So Morrison does show up. I gotta just say, this is wonderful. I motioned to the crowd of attendees in the pavilion, many of whom were looking in our direction. I presumed at Morrison, who was, literally, the only cis woman present except for waitstaff. I am very appreciative of John Scalzi's commitment to this. Cis is not a dirty word, because the people who think that cis is a dirty word think that trans is a dirty word.
There's also something also interesting. Everyone else is male presenting, which means that there may be trans men in this group as well, or trans women, but all of them are presenting men as male.
I would say that we don't have to assume that there are trans women here, because I don't want to presume that there are trans women who are presenting male. What I think that you mean is in the closet still.
Right.
Not trans women who have transitioned and then now are pretending to be male to get advantages.
Right. I think what I'm trying to get at is because the convocation itself is so hypermasculine, it self-selects for people who are going to present in that way.
Right. So I would say it's unlikely that there are trans women here, but there could be trans men.
I think that is a fair assessment.
Because let's just face it, if you have ever spent any time on a trans masculine related subreddit, drastically different than any female coded space that I have been in.
And one thing I will also say here is that anyone who is at this convocation or the convention, whether they are cis or trans, gay or straight or anything, they are all
assholes. Except maybe Charlie.
Maybe Charlie, mostly because he doesn't belong here.
Right, which he has pointed out that he has imposter syndrome up
the ash.
And Morrison's like, look, everyone here is a Nepo baby.
They all inherited this or kind of fell into this one way or the other. Nobody worked their way up, picked themselves up by their bootstraps or anything like that. The only way to have the kind of money to be able to swim in these waters is to inherit generational wealth.
So the pitch and pitch continues on. Charlie notes that all the tables that have the convocation members there are accompanied with cats. And Morrison points out that you have your own table. People are looking at you. You have a cat. You have the table. You have the space. Like, they're all trying to figure out who you are. And yeah, so he looks around again and he says, they were all to a person male, or at least conventionally male looking. The ones that were looking at me had one of three expressions on their face: curiosity, envy, or hostility. And I talked about this to Morrison, who nodded and then swallowed her food and says, of course they're hostile. You're their age, more or less. And you already have a table and a cat. They don't know who you are, so they have no idea how you managed it, and that makes you a threat. And Yes, this is ridiculous. And Charlie points out that it is ridiculous. And Morrison agrees that it's ridiculous, but it's still the case.
May as well at least enjoy the perks while you're there.
And then he doesn't get his food because it gets cleared away.
Yeah, it's performative opulence.
And then his food is replaced with a button.
With the arrival of that button, the actual pitch and pitch is about to begin. And yeah, it is basically Shark Tank.
College admissions are broken and we all know it. There's a better way to do it. Let me share with you my vision for a universal system where every student knows exactly where they stand in the competitive admissions process against every other student, with minute by minute updates. There was some satire about this in The Good Place. Anyway, opportunities for points boosts, sponsored by first tier advisors and corporations, and an exciting gamified atmosphere. I hate that term, gamified.
Yeah, that's one of the harbingers of startup.
Bullshit. I worked in the game industry. I still hate that so much. An exciting gamified atmosphere that makes college admissions the finest sporting event in the world. And Charlie goes, my jaw dropped at this genuine Hunger Games
Bullshit.
That, no.
Yeah, it's something out of Black Mirror. It's something that makes it so that it's no longer you send off your admissions materials and hope you get in. Turns it into, oh, and then I'm going to do this to goose my scores and this to goose my scores. And this is the sort of thing that you can see just enabling the absolute worst behavior when you turn it into a public spectacle. Like, it's bad enough when you have kids going through a whole bunch of extracurriculars they don't care about simply because it'll look good on the college app.
Yeah, that's awful and I hate it.
And, then you have parents turning their kids into the avatars of the successes they never achieved. Ugh. It's a recipe for unhappiness. Like, all of this is just profiting off of the misery of others.
Well, anyway, the third pitch for the night was testicles as a service. And in the middle of his spiel, quote, testicle dude launched into the air, propelled by a set of massive springs that had been coiled under the stage. Too surprised to scream, he arced silently into the darkness towards the lake. And a few seconds later, there was a muted splash.
This feels like some Wile E. Coyote
shirt.
Yeah, that's the other pitch.
That's why it's called the pitch and pitch. Someone could die. They designed the stage so that it launches the payload into Lake Como. They've been doing it for decades. They're pretty good at it.
I'm just going to point out that Charlie has more concern for the well-being of these tech bros than they probably deserve.
Especially because they're fictionalized.
Yes.
And so then the next person up is the soil as a surface. It was Brad, but all he got out was soil. And then he was on his way to the lake. And I looked over at Morrison, who had her finger on the button. What? Doing that was the whole reason I showed up. Of course it was.
So I think that brings us to an excellent time to turn to our notable quotables.
Yes.
And so it was my turn this week. So I had, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking my name, not trying to figure out something short and infantilizing that you could call me. Then I have, I think when someone who hates management wants management to know about something, they're either misdirecting or they're serious. Either way, Till should know. I have, they were all performatively doing a business for the benefit of all the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
I've got, for
forks
sake, Brad, the world doesn't need you to be the Monsanto of annelids. I want you to consider your testicles as a service. And then this is the one that I actually picked. You're not trapped if you don't want to leave, which is the other thing. This is indoctrination. Look at what's getting a pass here. Look at what's getting people launched. Dobrev likes to say the convocation is here to learn from these jackasses because he knows that makes them feel self-important. But make no mistake about it, they're showing these
jackasses
who they have to be to get on the inside of all of this. And the little heads are just eating it up. So this is all a cult, I said. Cults are more fun. I want to talk a little bit about that what's getting a pass and what isn't.
Yes.
So the things that are getting a pass are all, I mean, everything on here is rent seeking in one way or another, but the ones that are getting a pass are the ones that are creating an almost extortionate business model for their users, where the goal is to turn it into something that does not empower their users, but rather means that they are forced to pay or get left out or be left in the dust. So, in addition to the college admissions thing, we've also got one about treating ambulance services like Ubers
Oh, right. That one was.
and using it to proactively check their insurance capabilities and companies and making sure that ambulances are only picking up people who can pay for it or whose insurance will pay for it.
Now, talk about US centric. This is very US sounding based, whatever. Because, like, if you have universal healthcare, even if it's not great, because the less it is funded, the less well it works. And a lot of people want to defund things and still expect them to work well. Yeah. But US based insurance is already evil because it is based on whether or not you have a job. If you do not have a job, it is likely you do not have health insurance. And if you do not have health insurance and you don't have a job, you cannot pay for an ambulance ride because an Uber is cheaper. You cannot pay for the procedure itself. You cannot pay for emergency services. And you sure as hell aren't going to go to a doctor if you think your foot is broken, if you don't have thousands of dollars to fix it.
So, like I say, if we compare testicles as a service bro, why did he get ejected? Because while he's certainly evil, he's not as evil as the guy who's basically saying, I want to have a way for ambulances to know which people are profitable to pick up before they commit to it.
Testicles as a service guy got launched after he said we'd donate some of the proceeds to Planned Parenthood.
Exactly. Yeah, this guy is an evil rent seeking mother,
Forker.
but fundamentally, he at least thinks that this is something that could empower people. The ones who are getting let through are the ones that are all about empowering people to profit off of these systems. And they're pitching it as a way to profit off of these systems, not to empower people. And Soil as a Service, we don't really know what his thing is, but mostly he's kind of just a douchebag. I mean, that's just something to give you a clue as to what's going on with this convocation and what makes all of these guys so dangerous. Like what they're pitching is some truly dystopian.
Shirt.
And I think it also behooves us to think about any time a new technology comes out, we have to look at it and say, what is the profit angle on this?
Who's making money off of this?
And how are they making their money off of this? How are they able to pay for the infrastructure and capacity to provide this service to you? What is their motive? And how does that affect you? And I think that's a thing that's always worth talking about. Like, if something is free of charge, typically that means that you are not the customer, you are the product.
Facebook, anyone.
Yeah.
All social media, really.
Anything ad supported. If it's being provided to you free of charge, that is because you are being sold to the advertisers in some capacity, either because they can say, oh, hey, people who watch this given show are going to be more likely to fit certain demographics. And the more targeted we can get about those, the more money an advertiser can make off of it. Or if it's social media, again, they are harvesting all of that information about the things you like, the things you don't like, your psychological profile, and then advertisers can pitch you ads that are targeted to everything they know about you. And it's a lot. Every time you did one of those, which character from Sex and the City are you? You're giving them money and information that can be sold.
I mean, every time that you do a Google search.
So, yeah, helps you think about where some of the most malign effects of our current late stage capitalist era are, where those profit motives work, and who's profiting from all of it. It's all villains, guys.
Mark Zuckerberg, villain.
Bezos, villain.
Musk,
Villain.
yeah.
Although I think if we were to look at the world of starter villain, they're too public.
That is also true.
So with that, it's time to talk about what we learned this week. It's your turn. What did we learn?
All right. So, as I've said before, we're doing a whole bunch of pre-recording for the podcast so that I have 6 weeks off after getting surgery. And I've been doing a lot of like looking up what my diet should be like before surgery and after surgery. And a lot of what are good activities that I can do if the middle of my body is just flat out not functional for a little while. Like, what are the things I should be doing? What are the things that would be healthy for me? What will help speed up healing? What is going to be the best to ensure that anesthesia works properly? All this other stuff. And what I have learned is that absolutely no food is actually good for you to eat before you have surgery, like in leading up to it. They'll either make your blood too thin, too thick, give you too high of a blood pressure, give you too low of a blood pressure, interact funny with anesthesia, something. There's literally nothing that you can take. You can't take vitamins like a couple of days beforehand. Like that one actually is a thing that your doctor will tell you, do not take a multivitamin. Like, stop doing that a couple of days beforehand. You can't take anything to keep yourself calm. You can't take anything like at all, pretty much. You can't eat tomatoes. You can't eat mushrooms. You can't eat things with zinc in it. You can't eat anything. Don't eat a whole lot of carbohydrates, but also don't eat a whole lot of protein, but also don't
Don't have a lot of fiber or
right. But eat healthy. And I'm like, but don't eat refined sugar. Eat
don't have anything that has natural sugars either.
right. Don't have anything that has a has ingredients that will make your blood thinner. Don't have anything that yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty joyless.
Well, ultimately what I have learned and what is already a thing that I definitely already was doing is don't get your health advice from a Google search. If your doctor wants you to know something or to stop doing something or has instructions for you, follow your doctor's instructions. Sure, if you want to ask a ridiculous thing like, can I eat a tomato before I have my surgery? They're like, as long as you eat it well in advance so that you don't have anything in your stomach when we go to cut it into you, and you won't aspirate on your own stuff, like on your like, as long as you're not being an idiot. And no, this is all for someone who doesn't have too many dietary restrictions, right? Like, so I don't have diabetes, for instance, or I don't have anything, like I don't have IBS. I don't have a lot of food restrictions that would prevent me from eating like whole food, like tomatoes or mushrooms or leafy greens or rice or meat or not meat or whatever. Like I don't have that kind of restriction, and there's not, and I mean, I'm lucky in that fact. The things that I have problems eating are the things that a lot of people shouldn't eat in the first place, which is like ultra refined processed foods do stupid things to my body and makes me very lethargic, and so I avoid them. Cool. Probably shouldn't be eating that anyway. It really sucks that that's the cheapest option. But like it's just ridiculous when you just go through all the lists. Don't eat almonds, don't eat pumpkin seeds, don't eat anything that has like these nutrients in it because it could interfere. And I'm like, but that's all the nutrients. And then they're like, don't eat stuff that doesn't have anything in it. Like, don't eat white pasta or
Or
white
celery.
or right. But like, I don't know. I guess the biggest thing I've learned really is just that the internet is lying to you at all points.
Yes.
Or rather, don't get your medical advice solely off the internet.
Yeah, no matter what Reddit might tell you, it's probably better to just ask your doctor.
Yeah, oh my God. Speaking of that, seriously, there are people that post on Reddit that are like, should I go to the ER? And I'm like, did you call a doctor? Read what you wrote.
Right.
I'm bleeding out my eyeballs. Is this normal? No. What the hell?
Yeah.
But yes, so that's my what did I learn is that even though I already knew not to get strict medical advice off of the internet, it's not worth stressing yourself out to try to follow all of these rules when they are impossible.
You got that right.
Also, it's kind of funny.
With that, it's time for Thing of the Week. So, speaking of arbitrary, hard to follow, nigh impossible rules, my choice is Taskmaster. Do you like watching a cast of mostly British comedians jump through absurd hoops to satiate the whims of a petty tyrant and his feckless assistant? If yes, then you'll love the British game show Taskmaster. Each season, a panel of 5 comedians is assigned a series of arbitrary tasks by Greg Davies, the eponymous Taskmaster, and his assistant slash show creator, Alex Horn. The comedian who completes the task best gets the most points, and the ultimate prize, of course, is a crappy looking gold bust of Davis's head.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So some contestants prefer to take an extremely straightforward approach to these tasks, just one, done, bosh, while others employ some extreme lateral thinking to achieve surprising results. Some of my favorite contestants have been Noel Fielding, Kerry Godleman, Rod Gilbert, Mel Guilfoyle, Phil Wong, Jason Mantzoukas, Matthew Bainton, Richard Osman, Stevie Martin, Aisling B., and Russell Howard. To my mind, a good Taskmaster contestant is someone who approaches the proceedings with a sense of fun and also inventive problem solving, and especially creative interpretations of the way the task is worded. So by the end of the task, you know you're in a good place when both the contestant and the normally stoic Alex are doubled over and laughter at the ridiculousness of what's going on. The best news is that every series is available to stream in its entirety for free on YouTube. No weird subscription services required. Check it out.
That's awesome.
I thought so.
Yeah, you've shown me a couple of them that are very funny, like the real life video game one.
That one is one of the rare bits where Davies is genuinely stumped as to who should be awarded the most points because everything that he's watching is an utter delight. Whether it's a live action Mario Kart or Space Invaders or GoldenEye, like all of it is just hilarious. Again, you just watch these creative people come up with weird solutions to odd problems. It's fun. And I think one of the things that makes it work in the British show that didn't translate when they tried to do it in the US is the prize really doesn't matter.
Right. It's the journey, it's the events, yeah.
American game shows are overly fixated on giving you a monetary stake and usually presented as a life-changing amount of money.
Mm.
And in this case, no, there is no life-changing amount of money that comes out of it. The grand prize is just this stupid-looking bust of Greg Davis's head. And then each week there's a prize task, which is a whole bunch of dubiously valuable things that people brought from home. So with that, I'd like to thank you for potting with me.
Thank you for potting with me.
And thanks for listening to Tales from the Waystone. Join us next time as we continue the summer reading program with chapters 17 through 20 of Starter Villain,
which will be our last one that we record before my surgery. And then we're taking a number of weeks off, and then we're coming back to read the end of the book and then a little short story at the end. So that'll be interesting, and we're technically reading that tomorrow and recording. So, y'all, we're stopping the recording in August, and we're going to pick it back up in October. I'm glad we know this book very well.
Me too.
Anyway, we would like to thank our friend Shawnee Jang for our theme music.
And many thanks to John Scalzi for creating this world that we're enjoying exploring.
Audio production and editing courtesy of me, Phoenix McCullough.
And writing and project management courtesy of me, Will McCullough.
If you would like to help support us, please consider becoming a patron on our Patreon, patreon.com/waystonepod. If you do not want to do that, that is perfectly fine, and we understand. But come and join us on our Discord. There is a link in the description.
With that, here's to one more day above the roses.
To one more day above the roses.
Ding!
All right. The night before Charlie went to bed, thinking that his cat didn't like him. That would be so sad.
Yep.
Going to bed thinking that your pet doesn't like you.